Welcome back. Well, let's start with Mr. Magaji. He joins us from our studios in Kano. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, that speech, by the president did raise a lot of hopes for so many people. They think that, well, perhaps we will just hit the ground running this year, 2021. Maybe that's why the president chose to speak on the very first day. From your perspective, the expectations that people have, rightly placed. So do you see these being achieved this year moving forward?
Hello?
Can you hear me? I can hear you, actually.
Yes, I can hear you right now. Good morning to you all.
Good morning. Go ahead and talk to us about the president's speech. Are you optimistic about it?
Well, good morning and Happy New Year to fellow citizens. I believe that the president's speech have captured quite a few emotions and sentiment of the citizens. In my view, this is about the most logical and most comprehensive speech made after the inauguration. And unfortunately, we've lost 6 years. And this speech will have come second year, third year, or even quarterly. But nevertheless, we are here. It's always said better late than never. The presidents have basically addressed some fundamentals that have always worried citizens. Basically, security is a very important issue. The issue of corruption and economic progress of the country. And the issue of power. The president has also touched on power. And of course, in discussing security, he has highlighted the issue that has happened in Kankara, the boys that were basically rescued. But most importantly as well, the president for the first time, and I feel very good, he mentioned issues around the Nigerian youth. I mean, gone are the days when his view was that the Nigerian youth were lazy. And now he has come around, basically recognizing the fact that the resilience and the energy that the Nigerian youth brings to nation building. He has recognized that. And he has also committed to implementing the demands of the End SARS protest. For me, this is a very democratic kind of communication mechanism with the citizens. And the presidents have come around. And I hope very much that most of the items that the president discussed in the speech will be matched by concrete action. One of the limitations of this administration has always been that there are no holistic approach to issues related to development, related to security, related to infrastructure. And when the president mentions something, it just stays on paper. And there are no concrete mechanism of monitoring what the MDAs are doing so that we can be able to follow and track the development in the country. So my prayer is that much as it is late already, we can be able to use the remaining period to do a recovery, and the presidents can leave some legacy that we can all look for. We need to remember that the president was elected on 3 fundamental agenda. First of all, people view him as an ex-general, and therefore security shouldn't be a challenge. And then there is a projection with the Mr. President's attribute of integrity and anti-corruption. And therefore the nation looked forward to getting that from him as well. And then, of course, the population that voted Mr. President are the ordinary people and the ordinary masses. And looking at the statistics on poverty, we envisage that the president will come out with a very comprehensive agenda on poverty reduction. Unfortunately, all the are lagging very much behind. And therefore, now it's the time for people around the presidents, for MDAs, to have some sort of overarching vision that they can ride on. But that vision needs to be defined properly by the president himself. So the speech, I believe, addressed quite a number of fundamental issues, but at the end of the day, we need this overarching vision around infrastructure, around economic development, around security, and around social well-being of the citizens.
So issues that you raised, which we will take up in a moment. But speaking about the people, some of who you mentioned here, we have a man, Chris Elams, who is on the streets of Lagos, just talking to the people as well, because it's about the people, as you also highlighted, asking them a question or two about 2021. Good morning, Chris. Go ahead. What's happening today?
Good morning, Ayo. Well, it's a beautiful day here in Lagos. It's Monday morning, and I'm right here at Allen Junction. You know, it's a very busy part of Lagos. But if you look around, there are fewer vehicles around, and this, I can say, is as a result of the holidays. And you're also aware that the Lagos State government had directed its workers from grade level 14 downwards to stay back. And so there are fewer vehicles in town. But I assure you, by this time next Monday, it's going to be a different ball game entirely. But now we're looking at expectations from Nigerians. You remember the president on the 1st of January actually gave his speech and promised a whole lot. But are the people holding on to these promises? Are the people actually trusting of the government? Today, I have first with me fintech expert, a software engineer, Tosin Olugbenga. Good morning, Tosin. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. How are you, Merry? Happy New Year and compliment of the season.
Yeah, Tosin, let's look at your expectations from the government this year, 2021.
Well, as a Nigerian citizen, it is expected I have expectation from the government, and but this particular government, I don't really have a specific expectation from them because I don't want to be disappointed. But on a general base, you understand, citizens are expected to have expectations of their government, all right? So one of those things I want to talk about, especially that has to do with the young people, you understand, is the ease of doing business, all right? You know that Nigeria has a high level of unemployment rate. So if the government wants to help that, they must do things, make policies that allows employment to be reduced. And one of those things that create employment in even developed nations is entrepreneurship, which the young population of Nigerians, many Nigerians are innovative, you know that. You show them on your channels, you understand, they are very brilliant, they are intelligent, they have businesses they're doing. So if the government can make that business a bit more convenient for people to do, it will automatically means we have more businesses springing up, more people will be employed, thereby reducing unemployment. You understand? So if that is done, unemployment will be reduced and we have lesser people on the road who will come and start spoiling the what we have here when there is a peaceful protest. You understand? So ease of doing business is number one thing that we think the government should actually work on. So when you talk about ease of doing business, you are talking about making company registration, for instance, very, very easy. All right? Though there is a little bit of improvement, you can now register a company online, but that's not all. You talk about opening a company account to run your business. It's a tug of war, most banks, for you to even open that. Then to pay your tax identification number. The last time I wanted to register for one of my companies, FRSC gave us a form that have been in use for how many? For like 15 years ago. So that means FRSC is not innovating the process of giving tax identification number to people. And if you don't have that, you can't even open a bank account and you cannot run your business. So these are the things that should be harmonized. Thank God there are information about the national identity number, though the government is doing it at a very wrong time. There is COVID in town. When I was driving down to the office this morning, there are a whole lot of people at the NIMS MC office, which is against the COVID, So, but let's put that aside. The NIN is good. In the future, I expect a nation where I want to register a company. I go to CAC, you understand, give them my NIN number. Almost instantly, they check my records on the system and give me my company name. If it's available, I pay. And immediately I go to the bank, still give them the NIN, whether BVN, without necessarily having to capture things all over again. Then I also do the same with FRS in a day. In Kenya, you can register a business in a day, get everything done in a day.
Well, the government is doing a whole lot in terms of employment, plugging the unemployment gap.
If we should do the analysis, government is not doing anything about employment. Now, let me give you an example. Yesterday, on Politics Today, the essay to the president was talking, the anchor of the program asking that, what is the government going to do about the young population? Because there are conversations about young population. And he said the president is planning on agriculture. I was like, what? On agriculture? Wait, that's good and beautiful. But look at Lagos. Look at the population of young people in Lagos. How many lands do young people in Lagos have to even do agriculture? So, you are expecting an intelligent government to come up with innovative ways to engage more people around maybe IT. We talk much about IT and most of them do not even really know how to engage employment with this IT. But these things are very, very critical. When you talk about agriculture, let's take for instance, our young guys in the north, they're also young people. So agriculture can be very good for those in the north. But you now come to the issue of security. Okay. Is the nation secured? You understand? So the president is doing something for agriculture.
Yeah, exactly.
But people are not free to go to their farm to farm.
Okay. Well, that's Tosin. That's Tosin giving his own expectation from the government. Omowumi is a student from the Open University here in Lagos, and of course, she also has our own expectations from the government. Omowumi, what would be your expectation in 1 minute?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Omowumi. Yeah, we want the government to make education system easy for the students, because a lot of us we have the mind of finishing our courses like 4 to 5 years program. We are using 7 years courses, and when you are done with the school and you want to get a job, it's not really easy. They will ask you for 5 years experience, 7. Where do you want to get that? It's not really easy. The government should make the education system, whether if it is 4 years, let the 4 years be 4 years. If it is 5 years, let the 5 years be 5 years. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Omowumi, and of course, Tosin. You see, Nigerians have a lot of expectations. We know that for every one Nigerian who wants to travel abroad, there are about 1,000 more who want to stay back, who want to build their businesses, who want to build their family here. So it is expected that the government would make life beautiful for all Nigerians. Well, thank you for joining us. And Ayo, we'll come back to you in the studio.
Well, yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Chris. Well, let's bring it back here. We've got Mr. Richard Nwankwo as well. He's the president and founder Crusade for Justice. Mr. Nwankwo, well, yeah, you could take it from there. The president's speech. So how does that stand out, or what stands out for you?
Well, I think the only visible landmark in the entire speech is the fact that we are witnessing another generation of rhetorics. The president has succeeded in tactically making Nigerians understand that he has the latitude and the ambience to say one thing to Nigerians and do the exact opposite. I will take the speech one by one. I think there was a lot of emphasis on security and the Kankara issue, Boko Haram, etc., etc. But of course, we cannot judge the president's speech without making reference to what is on the ground. This is not a new government. The government is about 6 years now in power, and if one can comprehensively say that the security question is beyond the capacity, both the physical and spiritual capacity of this particular political leadership. Of course, you know that for the first time in the history of this country, human lives mean just nothing. And people are being killed on a daily basis. And the president repeatedly, this is not the first time, this is not the second time, not the fifth, the sixth, not the seventh. The president comes up every minute to tell us that security issues will be addressed, that all efforts are being made to address some of these issues. But you have to reconcile the president's speech with what is happening on the ground. If anybody is asked to score the performance of this government in terms of security, it would be foolhardy for anybody to give them 10%. Their performance is absolutely below 10%. It's an abysmal failure. And then you look at the issue of youth development and empowerment. What the president has said about youth development and empowerment is totally in conflict with what is happening on the ground. In fact, it's on record that within the past couple of weeks that the Minister for Information also issued further threats to the NSAS protesters, that the issue of accounts being frozen, the arrests being made, and subtle threats being made on some of these identified leaders. These things are still going on. So how do you reconcile that with the speech made by the president on the 1st?
Okay, Mr. Nwankwo, now let me take it to Mr. Muazu on that one. Those two issues you raised. Well, yeah, security is a concern, but we don't have the stats that people are killed on a daily basis, as you did allude to. But Mr. Magaji, when you say that, yes, this statement should have happened or should have come earlier, but it's coming now, and that you like to see that happen quarterly, what is being done in that regard? Because I think that may go a long way when people get to hear the government, however they want to organize it, talk to the people on a quarterly basis. Is it something that your team, any member of the party will broach or bring it up with the presidency to see how they can follow up with that, as you suggested?
I think this is a very important point where basically the people are giving government feedback based on what the president has said. This is the most powerful tool for governance. The engagement of the leadership with the citizens provide an interactive medium through which both the leaders and the citizens will understand the mindset of the government. I totally agree that, honestly, there is a disconnect between what the government and what the president basically is reading on his speech and what the government is implementing on ground. And this is the type of communication that the government need to understand. Because at the end of the day, when there is a regular communication, then people will understand more of the mindset of the president. I mean, look, at the end of the day, look at what the young people in Lagos are actually saying. There is a complete disconnect between generational expectation of young people on the street and what the government policies are. Agriculture, that young man just clearly stated it. Agriculture is an important economic sector, but you cannot do agriculture without security. So you have to understand there are enablers around your economic model. And ICT is even an area that the government doesn't even seem to understand that the potential of young Nigerians can be deployed effectively. And there is a lot of opportunity in there. Entertainment, recreations, tourism and sports. All of these are areas where young people excel excellently, even on their own without much government help. So if you want to leverage on the energy of young people, you have to understand that they have their own comparative advantage and their strength and their areas where they have their capacity and advantage. Now, if this communication will continue like we are doing now, then feedback can be filtered into governance. My concern here is simple, that the communication managers of the administration are in discordant tunes with the government and with themselves. Basically, you listened to very key senior personnel of the administration managing information and communication and public relations. They are talking quite differently and sometimes in opposite direction with even what the president is saying. So really, I think there is need for harmony. And this type of disconnect cut across the various sectors the government is pumping so much resources with a view to attain results. In infrastructure, you cannot be dislocating power with transport infrastructure. The anchor infrastructure of the country are connected. If you want to stimulate economic growth, you have to focus on providing the fundamentals of that growth. And that fundamentals are very well connected. You have to have a vision that tells investors and citizens this is where the government wants to take the country. The same thing with security architecture. There's been discussion on who is in charge of security, who is coordinating security, who is actually in charge of what. Is it the police? Is it the army? Is it the other paramilitary, the intelligence agencies? There is a very serious disconnect in coordinated approach to solving these problems. And there have been a lot of calls on adjustment and restructuring the security architecture of the country. And so far, it has been, we had you. And the calls have been from citizens to other arm of government, all the way to Congress people and National Assembly. And it has always been, we had you. We will do something about it. Then one incident happened, and unfortunately, I always say this. The problem is that the country is not secured. When an incident happened, the onus is on the government to secure the citizens. We did a recovery, thank God our kids are back. But then in the first place, it is the insecurity that led to that incident. So we should actually focus on what are achievements in the security space. When an incident happened, which is basically due to the insecurity of the country and lack of coordinated approach to securing the nation, and then we recover from it. And then we start celebrating as if somebody else caused the problem. Now, in my honest view, I think the government needs to communicate more. I honestly see a little bit of change from the president's perspective. What is now required is cascading this citizens' responsibility and governance to the public space. Because if other arms of government will cue into this initiative of communication regularly.
Yeah. If you don't mind me butting in, it's interesting that you are concluding where you started, and that is citizen engagement, citizens giving feedback to government. At the beginning of the whole NSAS response of government, it was like, we have heard you, we will do what you want, and then the responses to the 5 for 5 demands, began. But shortly after that, of course, followed by the setting up of judicial panels and all of that. But in the course of that, we also saw some agencies of government taking on certain young people, arresting some of them, putting, a lead on some bank accounts and all of that. So when you look at those interventions of certain agencies of government and you listen to the speech of Mr. President, yes, you have said that the discordance is there. How do we now bring everything together? Because it will seem like the chief executive is saying something and the employees of the chief executive are doing the exact opposite.
Well, I can tell you something. I honestly believe, sincerely, that we are actually witnessing the impact or the effect of the after cabal. We have struggled with the cabals. And, well, God in his own way has naturally dissipated the power of the cabals. But the elements that the cabal have installed in the government have their own interest. My view of what has happened with the NSAS is simple. That at the initial stage, the logic and rationality prevailed, and the presidents see the need for reaching out to the citizens. But immediately that happens, some reactionary forces in the government rised up. And that is what the problem is with this administration. There are people in the administration that push certain interests that are detrimental to the interests of the citizens and to the reputation of Mr. President. And I think that is where we need to now basically deepen our concern and our focus. Who are those people? Where are they operating from? On whose behalf are they operating? Because at the end of the day, had the presidents continued with that logical step of engaging young people and assuaging their concern and addressing the issues that led to NSAS process, the country will have become a lot more united and more focused on, patriotism. Then these forces rise up from nowhere. Are they within the security apparatus? Are they within the bureaucracy? Are they within the presidency? Are there other elements we need to go look around and see? Because now they are so amorphous that we can't even know exactly who is working counterproductively against the interests of the country and the position of the president. This is democracy. And there are rules of law here, and there are structure of getting results and also communicating with citizens. The two most important organs in the whole constitution is the government and the people. The contract between the government and the people is sacrosanct. If there is anybody in between that is derailing the agenda of Mr. President or basically taking it to somewhere against the interests of the people, we need to find out. So we need to start now scrutinizing the rest of the years of Mr. President, just like we did with the caval's activities, and God has helped us move past that. Now we need to start looking at where are the deep states, where are the elements operating on behalf of other interests against the Nigerian people.
Oh, Mr. Nwankwo, haven't heard that, so it does clearly appear from what he said that there's clearly a gap, communication gap between on different sectors or at the top level there. But you were going to talk about some other areas of this speech, but go ahead, even though we don't have so much time to do that. But let's hear you out.
Yes, but briefly, before I go into that, I must have to correct one impression. The emphasis on other agencies, security agencies, the military and so on, those things are absolutely irrelevant. We are practicing a constitutional democracy. The buck stops on the president's table. The chief of army staff did not appoint himself. It was the president that appointed him. The inspector general of police never appointed himself. And so this same applies to other appointments made by the president. If any of them fails to perform, the president is responsible for that failure. So the emphasis on security agencies as if these agencies are under my personal command and not that of the president is absolutely cosmetic and has no place under a constitutional governance. We must direct our grievances to the presidency. My colleague on the other side, gave a lot of emphasis on the issue of disconnection between the political leadership and the operatives along the line. That is a sign that the government has failed. Because the president is absolutely in control of this machinery. He has the latitude, to hire and to sack. So if there is any issue on security, people should stop making references to the police, the Inspector General of Police. That is the office of the president failing. And coming to the issues raised by my colleague on the other side, it is absolutely clear that there is a big disconnect. And if you weigh in, even on the leverages and presentations made by himself, you find out that the 10% I gave them is even charitable and over gratuitous. So I think we must come down to basics. Is there any economic model? Is there any transportation model? Is there any agricultural model? Are there templates that these governments are pursuing at this critical time? I will tell you that none. There is none. There is absolutely none. How many times have you spoken with the president? Political leadership is not about good speech. It's not about rhetorics. It's not about oratory. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with human development. It has to be with capital development. It has to be with structural development. And it has to do with the totality of the progressive index in any particular society. Is it roads? Can you say that they have done roads and done it very well? Is it security? Is it university education that has been on strike for close to 1 year now? These are the issues. And when people talk, they will be making references to us. It's the presidency that is failing. And look at the team of media men surrounding the president. There is no connectivity between any of them. And the same disconnect exists between them and the presidency. So we need to know who is actually piloting the affairs of the country. There is a total disconnect.
All right, Mr. Nwankwo, we hear you, but we're winding down now, gentlemen. So, Mr. Mazu, well, in that speech, you know, he did acknowledge certain things are not going right. So to many, that could suggest that might just be the first step, acknowledging, look, yes, we've not done well in this area, but we will do certain things. Now, going to what you have highlighted here, one wonders, are there opportunities within the party, including yourself, because having been a member of the Presidential Campaign Council, you were aware of all those promises. Is there any way they get feedback or members get across to the presidency or to the leadership of the party saying, look, this is the feedback, this is what we need to do, because the issues you highlighted here, if they were implemented, who knows the kind of impact it would have made?
I think I like that angle of discussion, because at the end of the day, we are in a democracy, and at the end of the day, the representatives of the people are everywhere in the party. At the moment, the party is going through some difficult times and some reform. But it's very important, like you rightly pointed out, that the party as an instrument of election and governance be invited to give a feedback. One of the big problems we are having is the fact that every single arm of the government see itself as an autonomous, independent arm that will just carry mandate and go and implement. The disconnect here is the vision. Why is the vision? And the vision comes from the party manifesto and the promises made during the campaign. And therefore, I will urge and I will appeal to Mr. President to form some form of consultative council between the presidency, the National Assembly, the party, and once in a while consult the judiciary to get an honest, structured feedback on the state of the nation. Yeah, of course, when opposition give feedback, you will take it with a pinch of salt. You will think, of course, they're trying to look for a fault in your government and also trying to criticize you. But I am very sure that properly structured, if there is a consultation between the presidency, the National Assembly, the party organs across the different levels, and the judiciary, they will be given some feedback that will be objective. And that way the country will benefit better in terms of the way. The most important thing is there is an intent now. Clearly, everybody agrees. There is an intent from Mr. President, and it has always been there, where the president is going to take the nation. The capacity to do that, the ability to do that, the structure to do that, the organizational skill to do that have all come to question. We have 2.5 years remaining, or 2 years basically, and I think we could do recovery, and the president can write his name in history as somebody who came, who has struggled, and who finally conquered. And I believe that the citizens are very much hoping and behind Mr. President to succeed. I believe that this country will unite under him.
Well, thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. Mr. Muazu Magaji, former member, Presidential APC Presidential Campaign Council for 2019, who joined us on our studios in Kano, Abuja, just coming out. And then we've also had Richard Nwankwo, who is the president and founder, Crusade for Justice, as well as the Human Rights Advocacy Group. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us today.